I'm Lowri. I'm a female prep coach and also lifestyle, and I'm also a posing coach as well. So I have my own team of girls who all compete in different levels, natural and obviously non-tested as well. I'm from South Wales, but I'm based in England, which near London, as you probably most would know better, because not many people know where Wales actually is on the map. But yeah, just a little rundown of me.
Where did that passion for you actually start to build up for wanting to like have a community and really start to like build something kind of unique?
I think when I started competing, it wasn't really known, especially in my area. Like I grew up in a very small village where bodybuilding wasn't really a thing, especially for females. So I remember the sport being really lonely, like didn't really have anybody to speak to. Friends and family didn't really get it, which is quite common now, but like I'd go into the gym and it would be no other female bodybuilder. Like it was sort of just me. So I thought I'd love to help someone, but for them to have like a circle then, because as I said, family and friends don't usually get it, and that can actually ruin it for you as well if you know you don't have that support and you feel lonely as well. So that's why I thought I want to build a community. So I literally cap my clients because I don't want to have hundreds and hundreds of clients, because it just loses like the personal touch to it, if that makes sense. But that's where I sort of got a passion from.
Did you have this like broad vision at the beginning that, hey, I want to have this in place and I want to do these things? Or has it kind of just come together as time has gone by?
No, I definitely had a vision. Just because of obviously my experiences I had. So I didn't have a clue as a first timer athlete. Like I remember going to my show with like no jewelry, the wrong posing suit, didn't even have the right tan. I just had zero knowledge, and social media wasn't the same back then either, where it is now, where there's lots of education on there. So when I develop things as a first timer, people don't know what to sort of do. So that's why now I book like bikini fitting days, so I can get them to know what bikini they have. Um, help them with the tans, what shows to go for. So I literally just go through absolutely everything, because you don't know unless somebody tells you. So it's just like I remember the stress I had on show day, like, and I just thought I never want anybody to feel like that because it was horrible.
And do you feel like now that you have like a kind of a community built up that the rest of the community is also kind of part of that educational tool for that new person coming in?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like all my girls now are from, well, totally different places, and they're literally like the best of friends, just because they support. Like even when a client wins in a show, one of my other girls will post a picture, and honestly the support in that is like incredible. So everyone's there to help each other, which I absolutely love. I think that's developed over the years, because I remember it not being like that. Like I remember it just being totally different. But it has become like that. And as you said, people have already done the work now. So everyone's done what they can. And then you leave yourself openly to be judged anyway. And like if a person beats you, it's the judge's decision, not yours, if that makes sense.
Right. Are you a personal trainer, online fitness coach, or gym owner on the verge of burnout? Are you wanting to grow your fitness business but can't add more hours to your hectic schedule? Introducing Trainer Revenue Multiplier, the premier wealth creation system for fitness professionals that helps you earn more and work less. Visit www.trainerrevenuemultiplier.com today to schedule your free business accelerator session. If you're serious about taking your business to the next level, schedule your call today. How do you maintain that, like the culture that you want to have within your community?
I don't always let everybody in, and that's not because like they're not good enough or whatever, but some people just want to come in and just be like, do this, do that, and that's not the approach I bring. So I think if someone doesn't fit, I don't really allow them in, and half the time it's the same on their half as well. It's like that's not really what they're looking for. Um, so I think just by speaking to somebody, and I can almost tell if I gel with them or not. Because I think if you don't gel with a coach or you don't gel with a client, you're not going to get amazing results, if that makes sense. Because like I'm the same as well. When I look for a coach, I had a coach recently who was like, right, do this, do that. They were amazing. Like the education was incredible, but I just didn't gel with that coach. So I've now found somebody who I do gel with. Um, and it sort of opens up like that, I think. But it's even with like the boundary side of things as well. Like I like my girls to come to me with absolutely anything. Like they can trust me with anything. I'm never there to have a go at them. Obviously, if they mess up, then obviously I'd be like, right, okay, let's get to the bottom of this. Um, so I think it just works that way as well, because I think if a client constantly lies to me because they can't trust me, then I'll just be like, right, I think you should go to someone else because this is clearly not working, and you'll find somebody who's better suited. So I think that's how I sort of keep it to how it is, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And did you ever struggle at the beginning with that at all? Like knowing, okay, this person may be not a great fit, or this, or struggle with like, okay, I need to take everybody on, or anything like that?
No, it definitely didn't come natural to me at all. I think because you get excited when the client wants to work with you, but it doesn't mean it's always going to work out well, if that makes sense. So I used to get like a bit of anxiety to be like for me it's not about money whatsoever. I love what I do. I love helping people, so it's one of those things. But when it comes to a place where I know a client is lying to me, and you don't purposely want to be like, right, like you're lying to me, because it might not be, it might be something to do with their bloods, whatever. But I did used to get a little bit of anxiety just to be like, oh, I don't feel like this is working, sort of thing. Whereas now I am open about it. Like I'll get them on a call. I'll speak to them if I don't think I can help them, and I think that they're not sticking to it, and it's just because I can't hold them accountable, that I have no issue with them being like, in a nice way, of course, but like try and find somebody else, because I think you get better results by working with somebody else, because obviously this relationship isn't working.
What are you doing, and what do you do to continue that education and continue to keep learning?
So I always invest in my studies. Like I absolutely love learning. So I'm not sure if you know, like J3 University, like I've done all the modules regards to that. So my knowledge is always there because I enjoy it. But like podcasts, but I think as well, it's like your own experiences is where you properly learn. Like I feel like it's like learning how to drive. You don't actually learn how to drive until you pass your test and you're in that car and you're doing it. You learn from your mistakes. So I've definitely learned from my mistakes. I've done things I'm like, wow, that was really rubbish. Like, don't ever do that again. And things have worked well. I'm like, oh wow, okay, that works. But obviously everything's person dependent. But like how I do things, like I know I'm way too nice for my own doing. Like I know I am. So some people will take that for granted. Whereas before I would just let it upset me. I'm like, all right, okay. Whereas now I don't. Like I never change as a person, because I love to help people and give them everything I possibly can. But I'm also not afraid to call somebody out now if they are taking the piss out of me, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, I think that there's definitely like professionally a line there that has to be like accepted on both sides.
Yeah.
You though, how do you now like handle, and maybe for coaches out there listening to this, just kind of like a little advice, like how do you handle when you do something that maybe isn't the best, you do something wrong, or you do something that maybe isn't optimal um for a client, or give them maybe advice that doesn't work out? How do you go about handling that, and bringing that up and saying, hey, I thought this was going to work, here's why? Like how do you go about that to just kind of set things right?
Yeah, so I'm always open and honest with my clients with what I'm gonna do and things like that, especially like peak week. Like I had one like not so long ago. We carved up onto like cream of rice and things like that. Worked really, really well. And then she was like, "Oh, can we try something else?" It's not something I've done before, but she's had it in a diet, but I've never actually used it to carb it up. And we just didn't get the best look. Like we've had better before that, if that makes sense. Like it just made a whole water. But I think because I was completely honest about like, right, okay, we can try it, but we don't know what this is going to be like because we haven't got time to trial it. And then she went on again, and obviously her luck was much better. So I think just being open and honest with somebody. I wouldn't normally like just throw something in the mix and do that. If I want to try something different, I would trial it first. But on occasions like that, you need to be open and honest, because you can't just lie or make up something, because your client's not stupid, and they might speak to somebody else about that occasion, and then somebody else might tell them, and it's better to come from you than somebody else that you coach have done this. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And I think, when we accept that, I think it has to be accepted on both ends that, like, the coach, you need to accept that, like, you don't necessarily know everything or know all the outcomes of everything. And the client also has to be able to be okay with that.
Yeah, and that's something I always tell my clients as well, especially because I do deal with a lot of first timers or someone that I've never worked with before. It's like gathering data. So like some of my girls, I'll tend to do different federations because they do look for a little bit different within the physique side of things. So I'm like, doesn't matter if you don't do well here. And then like one of my clients that you won the overall and then come seventh, So I'm just like, that's fine. Like we'll take that because you fit this federation, you love this federation, and then you've tried this one, and we know for next year not to do that federation. You didn't enjoy it. So everything I always write down as well, and I just gather data because the next time then I'm like, this worked, this didn't.
What do you do within your business to stay organized on that level of, like, collecting data and making sure, like, every, client is properly managed and organized? Like, what do you have in place to kind of make sure that that stuff stays organized?
So I have an app. So on the users, I have notes. So I'll write down like the last stage weight, what we carved up on, what worked, what didn't. I have lots of spreadsheets as well. And I go to shows as well. So I go to all my clients' shows because photos don't really do justice either, I find. Like when a person's moving around the stage, you can see far more than what a stage shot looks like. And it's not just even the physique, it's like, are they landing their poses correctly? Because obviously I teach them posing as well. How's their confidence? Like, were they smile? It's like all the little things that people look past, which make a massive difference. Because if you walk on stage and you're only smiling in your stage sort of like poses, mandatory poses, then and then the rest of the time you look traumatized, chances are you're not going to place either, if that makes sense.
That's funny, yeah. And how long have you been using an app or that app specifically?
A year now, so just over a year. I had it last July. And it's the best thing ever because I did used to have mainly just a spreadsheet, but I find that clients would like I'm not sure if you're familiar with Excel, but if you delete like a sum, the whole spreadsheet would just mess up, and I'm like, I'm not a tech head, so I don't know how to fix it. So the app is just so much better, and obviously I can just go on there and be like, right, because some of them will compete this time of year and won't compete for another year, so it's just like it's a long time, and obviously I haven't got the storage in my brain to remember that, so I write everything down.
What are some of those benefits from going from an Excel spreadsheet, or maybe some coaches writing something down, in a notebook, to using something like an app or some form of better technology?
Yeah, it's just so much easier. Like you can obviously use on your phone and your laptop, and it's just there. So you got like your nutrition, there's tabs. You can clearly see like your diet, like the rest day, training day, your supplements. So everything on your phone is literally like just like tabs, and you just click on there, screenshot it, and off you go. With a spreadsheet, you have to have an app for the spreadsheet, and then it's like you're trying to zoom in, and then you're just sort of like putting all the cells together, and you're just like, what the hell? But I just think you're having everything in one place. So if you want on your laptop, you can have it on your laptop. If you want on your phone, you can have on your phone. Like if you're doing your food shop, it's not like, oh, I didn't take a photo of my on my laptop because it's on my spreadsheet. It's literally like on your phone. So all my girls way prefer it, and even like logging your lifts, like it's all on the app. So they just go on their training plan and then they just log their lifts there. So I can see it, they can see it. If they have an issue, they're like, oh, can you look at it for me? I can just go on my so it's just so much like more beneficial than having an app where I can't really see half the things.
Right. Yeah. And then at what level, like, we talked about your community, like, where does that community kind of really truly come together? Are you a personal trainer who wants to scale and grow your business online? Have you been coaching online for years, yet don't know how to incorporate online into your current business model? Introducing Trainer Revenue Multiplier, the premier wealth creation system for fitness professionals that helps you earn more and work less. Visit www.trainerrevenuemultiplier.com today to schedule your free business accelerator session. If you're serious about taking your business to the next level, schedule your call today.
So I do meetups all the time. rarely do calls, to be honest. Just because I don't think they work that well. Like it's trying to get somebody on the same time something comes up and they forget about it as well with the call, I find. So I do like photo shoots, even though like my girls are hours and hours and hours away from me, they always travel over. So we do like photo shoots 3, 4 times a year. I do free posing seminars like 3 times a year. I go to all my client shows, and because it's such a tight community, the other girls will go and support one of my clients. So I probably see my clients, well, I've seen my clients like every weekend pretty much since April this year. So it's like I see them so often. Yeah.
What are some pieces of advice to like make your community feel like a community? Make it something where people want to become a part of it, like want to interact in it, and to where it's more than just like a group of people. It's really people that are coming together and start to almost feel like a family, I think.
Yeah. I see this often as well because some of my friends are coaches and they're like, I have a WhatsApp group, nobody speaks in there. And I think for me, it's important you work with who you want to work with because otherwise it's not going to work. So like the content I put out on my social media targets directly to who I want. And I think by looking at my content, you can clearly see what type of person I am, the community. And like some people are looking for a community, some people are not. So if some people are not looking for that community and they get added to a community group, they're just going to find it annoying, if anything, because they just like these messages that actually do my head in. They don't find it supportive. So I think it's important if you are looking to build a community to let your social media speak for you as well, because they don't know you otherwise. Like they look at your social media, like they don't know what type of person you are. You know, if your content's all mixed and match and it's just all educational content all the time, like of course that's brilliant, but that doesn't really show what sort of coaching you sort of provide. As I said, my last coach, we had no community group and I hated it. Like I didn't know who else was on the team. Like I would have loved to go and meet somebody for training and stuff like that. Because my girls would contact each other and go and train now, which they never would have, which is amazing because they don't have friends who really get it. So it's lonely, you know. But I think that's one thing that I did put out, like team photo shoots. I document it. I would get a videographer. The girls would be chatting about their day. So it gets people excited to be like, oh, I'd love to be a part of this. So when they are a part of it, they take part, if that makes sense. I think that makes a massive difference.
Even just the way you said that, being a part versus taking part, that is
Yeah.
is a big difference. What does it look like whenever you think about the future of your business and of your community? I mean, even just looking at 6 months or a year from now, like what are some things that you're looking to do to improve on like an individual business level, as well as how can I make this community better and how can we, help make this better experience?
So I do have a few things that I'm not going to fully unleash on here because it's exciting. But I recently took on another coach. Um, and how I like to do this, because I know coaches have coaches all the time and they have no connection, even though they say they do, they don't. And I hate that. So I've taken on a coach who I'm educated myself, and I've also put her through like the J3 university, so she knows just as much as I do. Um, our clients go into the same group chat, so it's like we are one team. It's not like, oh, that's my clients and that's her clients. Like she comes to my clients' shows, like she's a part of it, and I like to really get her involved. I think that makes a massive difference because otherwise you don't feel as one team. It's just like, oh, I'm team Lowri or I'm team Lauren, if that makes sense. But we have things in place that we would like to get done, more to the posing side of things, because we specialize in first timers. And I remember I was just absolutely awful at posing. Like I was the worst. If you see my first show, I can't even watch it. It's horrendous. So we want to put things out there now that will target first timers and literally doing it from scratch, where you can just sort of learn before going to an actual posing coach then if you wanted to in your area. Because I think a lot of people do pose in, but like never really specializing in first timers and never really having the patience either, because it takes so much patience to teach somebody how to pose because it's so difficult. So like that's sort of where we want to go for our next sort of chapter. And also like just bring up Lauren as well more across my page, because she's an amazing coach, she's an amazing person, an incredible athlete. So yeah, we're gonna work together to bring out some new stuff for the new year, which is exciting.
Yeah. And then not specifically with this coach, but just in general, any coach that you may hire in the future as well. Like, what is it that you do look for in a coach? What are those qualities? If somebody's like, hey, I want to be a part of this in the future, what are some things
Yeah.
that you really value as part of a coach?
So for me, well, when I picked Lauren then, for example, Lauren used to come to the girls' show just to support. Lauren doesn't like we live total opposite ends, like a good probably 12-hour drive, I would say. But she'd always make the effort to come down and just seeing how she was with my clients, like easing them, like supporting them on stage because I'm always the loudest in the room. Just generally like that side of things, which is important to me. Somebody who has good education on posing as well, like she poses beautifully, and that's definitely something I look for as well, and how she is with her clients. Because we are like quite soft, we're very bubbly, but we also need somebody who will be like put somebody in their place if needs to. And like education side doesn't really matter because obviously I'll provide that to them anyway. But I just think they just need the good morals that it takes to be a Team Lowri coach, and that's like number one is support.
Yeah. In working with first timers, what are some of those unique challenges? You mentioned just obviously the fact that you have to be patient and things like that, but like what are some of those
Yeah.
challenges that working with a first timer really brings on versus working with someone who kind of knows what's going on and is just like more more there for maybe the community and for the plan itself and not necessarily the help me not be extremely overwhelmed and extremely nervous and that kind of thing.
Yeah, so there's a few things we put in place for this. So it's like helping them develop a routine, first of all, because people overlook this. And it's probably one of the most important things that people fail to do. So even with their steps, they're like, oh, I haven't done my steps. I've got like 5K left. So just helping them manage their day so they don't get overwhelmed. Because I'm like, right, if you do this in the morning, you do this, you're left with like 2K in the night. That's a lot more achievable than sitting there being like, wow, I got 8K steps. So just helping them manage absolutely everything. And then I always push them then to do like a photo shoot. So we can do like a mock sort of prep. So they sort of see what it entails, and by the time they actually want to start prep, then they would have nailed down routine. Like obviously confidence, because photo shoot preps, I think you develop so much confidence and you learn so much about yourself as well. I find, and obviously just preparing them for everything as well, because when they look at like I want to compete, I don't know where to start. That can overwhelm you. And then when someone's like, "Oh, have you got your bikini and have you got your heels?" You're a bit like, "No, like didn't even know I had to do it." So we just literally like prepare them for everything, like bikini heels, like it's like a tick box, and we go through absolutely everything with them. But the reason why we like to do like a mock like prep or a photo shoot is because they get to experience it themselves. Because a lot of people, they might do the photo shoot and be like, this is definitely not for me, I could never do this, like wow, didn't expect it to be that much. And then other people then who are made for it are like, wow, that's so exciting, like I can't wait now, the next time to do this, I'll be standing on stage. But I think it is like, because obviously I've done it now, I've done it, and like you just can't forget that this person won't know anything unless they're told. And so I think for an experienced coach who do take on first timers, in my experience, what I've seen, they forget. They forget all of that. They just expect them to know like when to book their bikini, where to get their bikini from, like how to book their show, what, all these sort of things that it takes like 2 seconds of your time, which will make a massive difference.
Yeah. And what is if there is a specific one or maybe two things that most new competitors do forget about or they do overlook?
Pausing, like, oh my God, pausing. Because I've had people who come to me like a few weeks out and they think it looks easy because they've watched the pros on stage and obviously they pause incredibly well. So it looks easy. And then they pause and then they're like, oh my God, I got like two left feet. Like, what are my arms doing? And they forget it's like, and again, it's like the terminology that I use. It's like learning how to drive. You got like your steering wheel, like your pedals and like your gearbox, all them sort of things. And you're like, oh my gosh. But it takes so much time. You don't learn how to drive in 3 weeks. Do you know what I mean? So it's the same for your posing. So definitely that. It takes one thing to know how to pose and another thing to make it look seamless, because just because you are a first timer, you should not look like a first timer on stage. So that's definitely one of them. um I would definitely look at getting like a show day guide I've made for my clients. So it's basically like everything you need. So like your pump up bands and like your food and stuff like that. It's like a tick box, just because trying to think of that, doing like having brain fog is never going to be ideal. So definitely having that. And I would definitely say to trial it first, because that removes pressure, because you know exactly what you're getting yourself in for. You know you've nailed down everything, because in the day when somebody's first time doing this, it takes them a good 2 or 3 weeks to get into a routine and nail everything down. Like you don't have 2 or 3 weeks on prep. You have the 20 weeks or whatever else. And that's it. You haven't got time to lose, really. So I would definitely say those three things.
And then what about post show? Like what are some unique challenges working with first timers post show? This podcast is sponsored by Smoking Gun Coffee, a veteran-owned coffee company that strives to give back to those in need. Don't forget to use code TWR10 for a 10% discount at checkout.
That's a big issue. I find, especially in first timers. I think it's like getting your clients not to prepare for failure. So I always say to my girls, don't book a million holidays straight after where you're going to be around food, because chances are your family don't really understand, and they're going to be like, oh, just have a bite. Like you just work so hard. And then you're like, oh, yeah, go on then. And then you start to binge, and then that binge develops a habit, and it's so hard to get rid of that habit. It's really bad. So what I like to do is get my clients ready a little bit earlier, because that means then I can start bringing their food up. So the food focus goes. That's like number one. Obviously, that's not always the case. Sometimes people do have to be driven into the ground until the very last dot, if that makes sense. One of my biggest tips as well, which I always see, is I see one of my clients actually, and I know she wouldn't mind me saying this, she was over a prep, was just started picking up like cookies, cakes, all this, and she built a whole suitcase up of treats. And then like in your head, you're like, yeah, that's fine, because I'll eat whatever I want, and then I'll just save them for my cheat meals. That never happens. Like that never happens. You know it's there, you're just gonna go through it. So I always say, like, don't save your treats. Eat what you want and then throw everything else away, because honestly, no one ever just keeps something for the off-plan meals, because it just never happens. So I think food focus is probably one of the biggest things, and I think it's important to go back to sort of reality, because your goal is sort of like gone, even though it's not. In your head it is. Like you're not doing hours of cardio anymore. You're not doing loads of steps. You have all this free time, and this free time you tend to overthink as well. So just go out, see your friends, see your family, and like try to go back to a normal routine. Because obviously post-show blues are hard. Like it's really hard.
As a competitor and a coach, what do you install for like as those goals to still give people something to like push for and to be like, check, oh, I achieved this and I feel good about that. What do you do in those situations?
So for like little goals, if they obviously want to compete again, I always say to them, look, let's have a little look at what show dates you want for next year. And then like just break up that timeline, because I think a lot of people think, oh, well, I'm not competing until next year, so it's all good. But in reality, you want to have a really good off season, and the longer you binge, you're pushing that show date back and back and back, because it means you're not going to be in a building phase for as long. It's not going to be that successful. And then obviously you want a mini cut, but obviously food focus is really high. You can't really mini cut somebody because it's setting them up for failure. So I'm always like, right, you haven't got as long as you think. So like say prep is 20 weeks, you want to have a good few months in a building phase. So that usually works. Photo shoots as well, because I love doing off season photo shoots, because I think that should be celebrated as well. So I'm like, why you do like a photo shoot, because that almost keeps you focused as well, because you obviously don't want to look shit in there, if that makes sense. But I think with stuff like that, it's just patience. Like, and I have so much patience, and I do, like, my girls literally call me their therapist all the time. I just think it's just to make time for them as well. So like they can have weekly calls with me. They can call me whenever they want, and they know that as well. And it's just like putting things in place like that. So I get them to check in like every day, just for a little bit of accountability. Like, how's your day gone? Some people don't like it that way. They feel like it's pressure. And that's fine. And that's when you got to sort of learn what sort of client you have as well. And I always say, like, you've got discipline. You've just achieved X, Y, and Z. So it's in there, but it just takes like a few weeks, I find, for a person to be like, right, okay, I've got this. But I always find that like some people either absolutely nail it, some are like, or some just sort of get really upset and emotional about it, and it takes a few weeks to reset. And you're human at the end of the day. You're not a failure in any way or form. So I just think you just need to actually understand your client, and then take the best sort of form of action depending on them.
Right. Yeah, making it very personalized.
Yeah.
What percentage of people that you work with are kind of like, okay, this is a great experience and I want to do it more versus the people who are like, maybe this was good, but I don't really want to compete anymore.
To be fair, I think I've only ever had one client who said they didn't want to do it again. She wanted to do it, but her partner wasn't supportive of it. So she just felt guilty. So only one ever of my clients have never competed more than once, which is
Yeah.
mad, really, isn't it? With post show is why so many people do struggle as well, because especially first ever time, like I definitely did. Like I was competing in the day where reverse diets didn't exist, like off season didn't exist. And I remember I binged so hard for weeks and I couldn't get out of it until I met a coach. And obviously I got out of it. But I think some people can be quite naive in the fact that they're like, oh, building phase, freedom, like I can just go and live my best life, like it's all good, it's gonna be super easy. And like I always tell my girls, like it's really not that easy. Like, you're gonna have to reverse, so you're gonna have to try take that like seriously, try and do your best because the quicker you get out of that phase, the quicker you'll be on higher foods, low expenditure, like all that sort of things. But I think because they sort of play it down so much in their brain and they don't prepare themselves for it, I think that's when they tend to fail as well. And obviously, once you're in that mindset of like, I'm a failure, the self-sabotage is really hard to undo. So that's why I just try to work as closely as I can with my clients to be like, you're not a failure. It's just obviously a form of self-sabotage because you feel like you're failing because you're not ticking a box. But what does it ticking a box actually mean? Like, remove the pressure from yourself. So it's just like, yeah, it's definitely a mental challenge. I work a lot with positivity with my clients as well. Like I've actually had a conversation with them this week because like if we're not in control of our life, then doing what we think we should be doing, we quickly go to the negatives. And it's just funny how our brains work like that. We tell ourselves a story. So like she thinks, okay, because I've eaten extra today, and I haven't done this today, I'm a failure, I'm failing, rather than being like, let's flip this then. Okay, you haven't eaten your food today, but you hit your step, you went to the gym, like, and you're getting better each day. Like it's just funny because there's no truth behind any of them, like there's no truth that she's just going to lose control and end up fat, and there's no actual truth behind the oh, she's going to be better tomorrow, but there's no evidence between either. So I'm like, let's pick the positive because you feel so much better when you're like, right, okay, well actually I did X, Y, and Z today and I feel really good for it, rather than being like, well, even though you did 99 good things, you've done that one bad thing, so now I feel shit. And it's funny, isn't it, how it goes like that?
Yeah. We do. We almost like create our futures by telling us ourselves those stories.
Oh yeah, 100%. And it's just like I had a client, she said she was ill and she had to take a week off and she was like really upset. She's like, I've lost all my gains, like, and I'm like, come on now, you haven't. Look at all the girls who'll go and have their boobs done then for show. They have to have 6, 8 weeks off. And I was like, some of them are Olympians, So and she's like, oh, I didn't think of it like that. But it's just we quick enough to be like, oh my gosh, my world is ending now because I haven't done this one thing. And I'm like, it's just funny, isn't it? How we just make these stories up and then all of a sudden our mood is just like that and like, oh, what's the point?
Yeah.
And then that's when self-sabotage tends to happen next. So like, what's the point?
I think it's a good sign of like caring about it, but at the same time, you don't want to let that lead down the roads, the slippery slope.
Yeah, and I think obviously you're just being judged as well in bodybuilding. So I think it's just having that pressure to always be better and taking recovery is also being better. Like you have to recover your body because if you just keep going in all the time, like that's not going to be great either. But people don't think of that. They think if I'm not doing the most, then what's the point? And it's quite sad, really, isn't it? People think like that.
And I can imagine working with, new competitors, that would be a hard message to convey that like this time off isn't just time you're doing nothing that's wasted time. Like this is actually when you are getting better. Like just conveying that message.
It's mad to think about. And I think again, with like first timers, because they don't really know and they just think, oh, I want to get there now. Like a lot of first timers come to me and they think they're going to be pros, like straight away. And I'm like, been trying for years. I'm not there yet. Do you know what I mean? But it's just like trying to say it in a way where it doesn't deflate them, but being like, that's a great goal to have. But like, let's just iron out like our routine first. Let's do this first and things like that. Let's learn the basics. But I think that's another thing as well. Like in regards to like social media, people think then if they compete, they have to be pros. I have clients who compete for fun. That's all they want is for it to be fun. And I think that's where the added pressure comes from then as well. Like social media, they expect you to do better, if that makes sense.
If you're in it, I think if you're only in it to become pro, then you're probably not in it for the right reasons.
Yeah, definitely. And that's something I tell my girls all the time because I'm like, you need to have a strong enough why for why you're doing bodybuilding. Because when it gets tough, like what do you like you just gonna be like, oh, what's the point? Like I started bodybuilding because it literally saved my life. So I'm always grateful for that, if that makes sense. And that's a strong enough why for me. But just to do, because a lot of people, I think they do it now as well, because it looks glam. And everyone who does compete knows that it's like 1% glam. And then 99% like blood, sweat, and tears, quite literally. And feeling hungry, just feeling just low moods and stuff like that. But they see this 1% of like somebody on stage for 5 seconds. I'm like, I definitely want to do that. And then they just obviously not cut out for the work because they don't expect it to be hard. I remember winning my first show, and obviously the best feeling ever. And then like my second show, then I didn't place, but I like obviously I was upset over it because you're going to be, because you just think, oh, I worked really hard. But the reality is everyone's worked hard on that stage. Like everyone has. And I just thought like, because I won my first show, I'd always win shows, but I learned nothing about my win, about myself. But I learned more about myself when I came, like, I just didn't place. Like I didn't place like twice in the same year. I took it better the second time because obviously you just don't know who you're going to be up against. You could be the best person ever and you could win all your shows, and then you could go up against somebody you've never been against before, and you might come third or fourth because these people you've never competed before, and they might be on the level of nearly getting their pro card and you are just a first timer. So it's just like you need to take that with a pinch of salt as well, because I think a lot of people do get caught up, and I think it's the pressure from social media. It's added pressure as well because you're just like, oh, well, everyone's expecting me to win now, so I need to. So anything other than a win is a loss. And I think for a first timer, I remember when I just wanted to place top 5, like that was my goal, But like these days, people are expected to like have their pro cards in their first season, which is not very common at all.
Yeah. No, it's crazy to think that that would be the expectation.
Yeah, definitely. It's mad, really. But yeah, and I think as well, like if it is a pressure, like I say to my girls, just don't tell anyone you doing the show. Remove the pressure. Just don't tell anyone till after, because that honestly works a dream. Because the pressure doesn't come from them or me as a coach. It comes from people who don't really know them, who've never seen them in person.
Yeah, for sure. It was great getting to chat with you. I really appreciate you coming on. It was, like I said, great to get you back on, dig a little bit deeper into the coaching side of things, how your team runs, how you have kind of built that community. I think it's a really great community. It seems like, especially just kind of following you for the last year or so and seeing things develop. I'm looking forward to seeing how things continue to develop in the future.
Oh, amazing. Thank you for having me again.
Absolutely. And if you want to, before we head out, share your social media, your team information, anything like that, you can.
Yeah. So my Instagram is Lowri Beth, so Lowri Beth _. And my team page is just Team Lowri. And yeah, that's it.
If you're tired of searching for a coach or trainer, somebody who knows what they're talking about and has experience, make sure you go check out the new Coach's Corner on weightroompodcast.com. You can find quality, qualified coaches to help you achieve your goals, whether that's in bodybuilding or just general fitness. Stop wasting time and start achieving your goals today. The link to the Coach's Corner is down in the description below.